And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
I had not heard of Claustrophobia before it came out, so it was kind of a surprise when it showed up. This is a big game. It's fairly heavy, and when I opened it up, I was amazed at the quality of the miniatures that were found, pre-painted miniatures in the game. They looked really neat, and so after reading over the rules, it felt a little bit similar to what I've read about Space Hulk. Basically, in this game, you have this Redeemer guy going underneath the city in the 1800s, or earlier than that, I guess, going underneath the city and fighting off hordes of demons, and for whatever reason, and he takes a bunch of convicts with him. So, before I give my opinions on the game, let me show you a little bit of what the game looks like, because it has some pretty high visual appeal. Let's talk about the heroes first of all, or, well, I guess if you can call them that. This is the real hero, the main character, and he goes through, look at his nice axe there, and then he takes a couple convicts with him in each mission. You have these guys, which are basically bodyguards, brute bodyguards, and then you have a couple blades, and these are all characters that are convicts that have been released so that they can go and fight. Now the game takes a hint from the Formula D that Asmodee put together, where it uses these plastic bins, and you will place a card for each character into the bin, like this, and you'll have one of each of these for each character. Now this is to me the most innovative part of the game. At the beginning of each turn, you're going to roll a certain amount of dice, and you're going to assign a die to each character. So let's say I assign a die to this character, 2. I will then look at the movement row here, 2, and that, or the row 2, and that gives him 1 movement. He has a 3. He'll roll 3 combat dice when attacking, and his defensive number is 4. And if you look, all the numbers are different, so whatever die you assign each of your heroes will determine which of these rows they can use. As your characters take hits from the bad guys, you will be putting them on here, blocking off those rows. Now that may cause a player not to be able to, if you have to assign, for example, a 2 die to this character, and 2's been blocked off, he can do nothing. But it also limits their options, and it does a very good job at showing how someone who's wounded simply just isn't as 100% as someone else who is not wounded. Characters also start the game with maybe a weapon, for example, the Blessed Hammer, or special abilities, and they also have some abilities built in. For example, this guy is the bodyguard, and he's impressive, and those are 2 special abilities that the rulebook will give him. And here are the bad guys. You have a whole pile of troglodytes, and then you have some master demon, which, depending on the scenario, could be different. It could be the demon of destruction, could be the demon of cruelty, could be the master of souls. Each one of those guys has different stats, but usually they're the final bad guy in a dungeon. Instead, you'll be using troglodytes. Now, something pretty neat about this game is that the player playing the troglodytes has this chart here, and each turn they also roll dice. For example, they roll 3 dice here, and they are going to place these dice on different areas depending on what they've rolled. For example, they could place it here on 12 plus, and one of the human warriors is going to take a hit. Or here it says the dice must all be even, all odd or even, and it gives you more points to put out more troglodytes. Or here you get an extra die of destiny during the next threat phase. And there's just different things that you can do over the course of a round, and so you can put these out, and you're trying to basically customize your troglodytes for that round. Are you going to make them faster? Are you going to draw event cards? Are you going to make them frantic, which makes them move in different ways? And so there's different abilities that you can do by rolling the dice, and I thought this was a neat mechanic. This and the human's wounding mechanic was pretty good. A whole big pile of tiles is used to make the board up. You start with your starting tile, and you'll eventually get to your ending tile, and depending on the scenario, you'll build these tiles, and all of them fit together in different ways to form a map that players will be going through. There are different rules about where you can bring new troglodytes on. There are different rules as to each of the tiles you turn over may have an icon in its corner, which, for example, this one here, only one person from each side can go through that. Other ones may have some kind of ability, there might be water, there's all kinds of different tiles that are in the game, and so you're never sure exactly what's going to show up as you go onto a new tile. Or maybe the map is pre-made. You have to go by the scenarios. Each scenario has a certain condition for the humans. For example, one of the first scenario, the humans simply have to get out alive. Or maybe they have to kill the main demon to win the game. And the demons basically, they just have to kill enough humans usually to win the game. And sometimes there's even like a tied sort of condition. In the rulebook itself, which was very easy to understand, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 scenarios, which I guess is a pretty decent amount of scenarios compared to other games. But I don't know. I mean, after a while I just get tired of using Nurglings. And I also didn't like that these bodyguards and the blade heroes, they didn't have names. And so it was, oh, there's the bodyguard with the yellow hair. And I wanted a little bit more. I wanted more variety in the game. And the cards in the deck, they had some variety. And I guess maybe there's 43 expansions planned for the game, but I was hoping to have more in the box itself. It's a good strategic game, but at the same time, we can't talk too much about strategy when really it comes down to rolling dice much of the time. It might be the missions might be weighted towards one side or the other. I thought they were pretty balanced myself, but I don't know. Maybe I was just looking for more. This is very light, and I think a lot of people are going to like it. I have to admit that I'm not real keen on the whole fighting demons thing. I mean, really, can't we come up with something different than that? But some people are going to be enthusiastic about it. I certainly like the hero cards and how that works. I like the troglodyte board and how all that fits in. And the components are spectacular. It just isn't the kind of game that I'm looking for. Maybe too light, not varied enough, and I'm just not a real big fan of the theme.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.